The late morning sun spilled through the glass windows of a small but busy cafe in Manila. The chatter of customers mixed with the soft hum of the espresso machine. It was the kind of place where people came for a quick break, a coffee, a moment of quiet. At the counter, a young woman stood patiently in line. She wore a light gray hoodie, simple jeans, and sneakers. Her hair was tied back casually, and her phone was tucked in her pocket. There was nothing about her appearance to suggest she was anyone important. She smiled politely at the cashier, waiting for her order. But the man behind the counter, the cafe manager, looked stressed and impatient. Orders were piling up. Someone had complained about a missing croissant. I tapped the counter, eyes darting between the machines and the growing line. "Ma'am, if you're not ready, please step aside," he said sharply. The young woman blinked, a little startled. "I've already paid," she replied softly. But the manager was already half turned away, muttering something under his breath. He reached for a paper cup, filled it with steaming coffee, and slammed it down on the counter harder than he needed to. In that split second, his elbow caught the edge of the cup. A streak of hot coffee arced through the air, splashing directly onto the young woman's white t-shirt beneath her hoodie. She gasped, stepping back in shock. The cafe went quiet. "Oh, for God's sake," the manager sighed, rolling his eyes. "You should be more careful." A few customers glanced over. One woman in the corner frowned, but no one spoke up. The young woman bit her lip. Her cheeks burned, not from the coffee, but from the embarrassment. She reached for a napkin on the counter, dabbing at the stain. Behind her, a man in a baseball cap and dark sunglasses stood perfectly still. He had been in line the whole time, silent, watching. His broad shoulders and calm posture gave him an air of quiet authority, but no one knew who he was yet. The manager didn't notice the man. He turned away, starting another order, muttering under his breath again. And then, the man behind the young woman took a single step forward. It was at that moment the cafe was about to learn exactly who they had just spilled coffee on. Who was standing right behind her. The cafe's quiet hum felt heavier now. A few people had seen the coffee spill. They quickly looked back at their phones or sipped their drinks, pretending nothing had happened. That's how it usually goes. Someone gets embarrassed in public, and the world just keeps moving. But the man behind her didn't move. From beneath the shadow of a black baseball cap, his eyes had been locked on the manager's every word, every gesture. The sunglasses hid his gaze from others, but not from the young woman in front of him. She could feel the presence of someone solid. Someone who hadn't flinched when the coffee splashed. The young woman married Divine Grace, though everyone close to her called her princess, kept her head down, still dabbing at her shirt. She wasn't used to announcing who she was. In fact, she preferred not to. Being the daughter of one of the most famous men in the Philippines had taught her one thing. When people know who you are, they treat you differently. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but never the same. And right now, she was just another customer in line. Or so the manager thought. The man behind her shifted his weight slightly. The light from the cafe window caught the edge of his jawline. The faint scar just above his chin, a scar most boxing fans in the world would recognize. But here, no one was paying enough attention to notice. The manager was busy, flinging orders to the baristas. "Move faster, people. We've got a line here," he barked, his voice dripping with irritation. He glanced once more at Princess and muttered something under his breath. She didn't hear it clearly, but the tone was enough to make her shoulders tense. It was then the man behind her spoke, his voice low but steady. "Is there a problem here?" The manager barely looked at him. "Sir, please wait your turn. We're busy." A subtle pause. The kind of pause that makes the air feel heavier. Princess turned slightly, just enough to see him. Her lips parted. In surprise, though she didn't say his name, the man reached up slowly, removing his sunglasses. And in that instant, the cafe changed. Two teenage boys at a corner table froze mid-bite, eyes widening. A middle-aged man dropped his newspaper, his jaw slack. Someone near the counter whispered, "Is that?" It was Manny Pacquiao, world champion boxer, former senator, national hero, was standing in line not 3 feet from the man who had just spilled coffee on his daughter. The manager's face drained of color. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Pacquiao's gaze was calm, but there was something in it, a weight. A history that made the room go silent, and then, without. Raising his voice, he said, "You just poured coffee on my daughter." The words hung in the air like a heavy curtain. "You just poured coffee on my daughter." No one moved. No one breathed. The cafe had gone from a noisy midday rush to a frozen stage. Every person an unwilling actor in a scene they didn't understand but couldn't look away from. The manager blinked rapidly, as if the statement needed a few seconds to fully sink in. His eyes darted from the coffee-stained shirt of the young woman to the man standing behind her, then back again. Sir? It was an accident," he stammered, suddenly aware of how small his voice sounded in the suffocating silence. "I didn't mean." Manny Pacquiao took a single step forward. It wasn't threatening, not in the way most people think of threats, but it carried more weight than a shove or a raised fist ever could. His presence was magnetic, the kind of energy that comes from a lifetime of being in the ring, facing down opponents bigger, stronger, and faster, and still winning. "I didn't ask if it was an accident," Pacquiao said, his tone calm, almost quiet. "I asked if you understood what you just did." The manager swallowed hard. The sweat had begun to gather at his hairline. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. From the corner, a phone camera clicked to life. Then another. People were filming now, quietly, discreetly. Not just because it was Manny Pacquiao, but because they could sense something was about to happen. Princess shifted uncomfortably. She didn't like this kind of attention, and she hated that her father was now involved. But part of her felt a small, guilty relief that someone was standing up for her. "Sir, I was just busy," the manager began again. But Pacquiao cut him off, his voice still steady. "Busy is not an excuse to forget respect." That landed differently. It wasn't about the coffee anymore. It was about the look the manager had given her, the way he had dismissed her with a wave, the muttering under his breath. The coffee was an accident, perhaps, but the lack of basic decency that had been a choice. Pacquiao's eyes didn't waver. "Do you treat all your customers like this? Or only the ones you think are unimportant?" The manager's gaze dropped to the floor. He mumbled something about stress, short staff, too many orders. Pacquiao shook his head slowly. "When I was young, I worked in jobs like this. Hard work is no excuse for a hard heart." Those words landed not just on the manager, but on everyone in the cafe. People shifted in their seats. The silence had changed. It wasn't frozen anymore. It was charged. Princess glanced at her father. She had seen him fight in front of thousands, had seen him stand under the lights of the biggest arenas in the world. But this quiet, controlled presence was different. More intimidating in its restraint than any punch he'd ever thrown. The manager's breathing had quickened. His hands fiddled with the towel at his side. "I'm sorry," he said finally, his voice low. "Ma'am, I didn't mean to." But Pacquiao didn't look satisfied with the apology, not yet. He turned to his daughter. "Princess, what do you think? Should we just leave it here?" The question wasn't just for her. It was for everyone watching. It was an invitation to think about what an apology really means. Princess hesitated, then gave a small nod. "It's fine, Papa. Let's just go." Pacquiao looked at her for a moment, then back at the manager. "You're lucky my daughter has a kinder heart than you showed her today." With that, he stepped back, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. The crowd of onlookers parted silently as they walked toward the door. Phones were still recording, but no one dared say a word. At the door, Pacquiao stopped and looked back, not at the cameras, not at the crowd, but directly at the manager. "Remember," he said, "you never know who's standing behind the person you disrespect."
Ouch.
The cafe incident should have ended in that moment. A spilled cup of coffee, an apology, and life moving on. But the thing about moments in the modern world is that they don't just vanish. They multiply. By the next morning, the world was about to meet the manager who poured coffee on Manny Pacquiao's daughter. The first video appeared on TikTok, shaky footage, probably from a customer at the back table. The caption read, "When the manager messed with the wrong girl." Hashtag Pacquiao. Within 2 hours, it hit 1.3 million views. Twitter followed. At PINOY boxing fan. Wait, is that Manny Pacquiao in the background? Bro is about to catch a left hook of destiny at Cafe Culture Watch? Power lesson? Always be kind to strangers? Never know if their dad is a world champion? At Sports Nation, from the ring. To the coffee shop, Pacquiao is still undefeated at protecting his family. Screenshots of Manny's stoic face in the video went viral. Someone even turned it into a meme. "You just poured coffee on Pacquiao's daughter. Your move." By noon, ABS, CBN News, and GMA were running headlines. Viral video. CAF manager harasses young woman, finds out she's Pacquiao's daughter. Manny Pacquiao, seen witnessing coffee shop incident. Internet reacts, even international outlets joined in. BBC. From boxing legend to protective father Manny Pacquiao. Caught in viral CAF footage. ESPN. No gloves, no ring. Pacquiao faces a different fight. The cafe's official Instagram page turned into a war zone. Thousands flooded the comments. Apologize publicly or close down. You disrespected a national treasure's family. Your coffee's bitter and so are your manners. The manager's own Facebook account was dug up. People found his old posts complaining about rich kids and entitled customers. Screenshots spread like wildfire. The internet had decided this was no misunderstanding. This was arrogance. Meanwhile, Manny Pacquiao said, "Nothing, no tweets, no interviews, no statements." The silence was deafening. That silence only fueled speculation. On talk shows, pundits debated, was Manny waiting to address it in person? Is this going to court? Or is he giving the man a chance to apologize before going public? In the cafe, the atmosphere had changed overnight. Where customers once chatted softly, they now whispered nervously. A couple of tables were empty. The regulars noticed. That evening, someone filmed the manager pacing behind the counter, visibly stressed. One employee whispered to another, "He's scared Manny will come back." On Reddit, a thread titled, "I work at that cafe," AMA exploded with over 6,000 comments. One claimed he's been acting tough for months, treated staff like garbage too. Guess karma came with coffee. By nightfall, the viral video had 22 million views. Celebrities joined in. Dwayne Johnson, rule number 1, don't disrespect someone's family. Ever. Filipino singer Lisa Longa, kindness costs nothing. This is heartbreaking. The world was no longer just watching. It was waiting. Waiting for Pacquiao to speak. It's waiting to see what the man in the viral clip would do next. The pressure cooker was at full heat. And then, on the second day, the cafe's glass door swung open. The bell above the cafe door gave a small chime as it swung open. But this time, it wasn't just a customer walking in. The late afternoon sun poured through the glass, outlining the figure in gold light. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Spoon clinked against a mug and didn't stir again. It was Manny Pacquiao. No baseball cap this time. No sunglasses, just the man himself. Calm/steady, dressed in a simple polo shirt and jeans, but carrying the kind of presence that filled every corner of the room. The manager, standing behind the counter, went pale instantly. His hands, which had been wiping down a tray, stopped moving. The rag slipped from his fingers. Pacquiao didn't rush. Took a slow step forward, then another, his shoes making soft, deliberate sounds against the tiled floor. Eyes followed him. Some customers instinctively reached for their phones. But there was an unspoken tension that made most hesitate to record. This didn't feel like a moment to broadcast. This felt personal. The manager forced a smile thin. In trembling, Mr. Pacquiao, welcome back. Manny's gaze didn't waver. Is it? The question hung heavy in the air. The cafe's soft background music seemed almost too loud now. The manager cleared his throat. About the other day, it was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean you. Poured coffee on my daughter, Pacquiao said, not loudly, but with a firmness that cut through the manager's words like a knife. Shishi was in the way. I was busy. You were disrespectful." There it was, the accusation laid bare. Simple, uncomplicated, and absolutely inescapable. The manager's eyes darted toward the few customers who were now openly watching. "Sir, I already told her I was sorry." Manny took one more step. Closer, closing the space between them until they were separated by just the counter. "A real apology is not for her. It's for everyone you treat this way." The manager swallowed hard. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." The silence stretched. Even the espresso machine seemed to hold its breath. Finally, Manny leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a low, almost conversational tone. "Do you know what I've learned in the ring?" The manager blinked. "What?" "Strength is not how hard you can hit. It's how you treat people when you don't have to hit." A murmur rippled through the customers. "You think I came here for a fight?" Manny continued. "No. I came here to give you a chance." The manager's throat bobbed as he swallowed. A chance. A chance to make this right publicly. It's not for me. For her. And for every person you think you can treat badly just because they have no name you recognize. The cafe door opened again, and Princess walked in. She wasn't hiding behind sunglasses or a cap either. Her eyes were steady, and for the first time the manager looked directly at her. Really looked. She didn't speak. She didn't have. 2. The weight of the moment pressed down on the manager's shoulders until they seemed to sag. Slowly, he stepped out from behind the counter, turned to face the room, and with visible reluctance said, "I want to apologize to this young lady and to all of you. I was wrong. My behavior was unprofessional and disrespectful. I'm sorry it wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it was public." Manny studied him for a long second, then gave a single, small nod. "That's your first step." He turned to his daughter. "Come on, Princess, let's go." At the gas. 2 walked toward the door. No applause, no cheering. Just quiet respect as they passed. And when the door closed behind them, the air seemed to exhale. The manager stood alone in the center of the cafe, staring at the door, the weight of millions of eyes from the internet still hanging over him. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. By the next morning, the coffee shop incident wasn't just trending in the Philippines, it had exploded worldwide. Major news outlets rolled the footage on repeat, freeze-framing the exact moment the hot coffee splashed over the young girl's dress, followed by the delayed reaction of the man standing behind her, Manny Pacquiao. CNN Philippines opened with the headline, "From the ring to real life, Pacquiao steps in after daughter harassed a calf." ABS-CBN News went more blunt. Manager pours coffee on Pacquiao's daughter and gets instant payback. And then came TMZ with their signature sensationalism. Bad day to mess with Manny's kid. Morning talk shows were buzzing. On Good Morning Manila, the anchor leaned forward and said, "Imagine you spill coffee on a stranger, and that stranger's father just happens to be one of the most feared boxers in history. What are the odds?" Another channel played the footage in slow motion, looping Pacquiao's expression change from neutral to deadly serious, over dramatic music. Social media split, Twitter now X, tags like hashtag #PACQUIAO protects, hashtag Coffeegate, and hashtag DONT mess with Manny were trending. One user wrote, "If my dad was Pacquiao, I'd never be scared of anyone ever again." Another posted, "Not condoning violence, but sometimes karma wears boxing gloves. But not everyone sided with Pacquiao." A few voices argued the manager's act was clumsy but unintentional, accusing Manny's fans of overreacting. This sparked heated debates in comment sections, thousands defending him. You don't accidentally pour coffee on someone's child. International Pick-a-Bee Midday ESPN ran a segment titled, "Pacquiao vs. Coffee, the fight we didn't know we needed." British tabloid The Sun splashed it across their front page, "Boxing legend defends daughter manager regrets. Life choices." In Los Angeles. Celebrity gossip shows were already speculating whether Hollywood producers would turn the viral moment into a docudrama. That afternoon, a shaky phone video appeared on Facebook Live. The coffee shop manager himself, sitting in a dimly lit room. "I didn't know she was Pacquiao's daughter," he stammered. "And the coffee? It was an accident. I've been receiving death threats since last night. Please, I'm sorry, but the apology came too late." People had already chosen their side. That evening, Manny Pacquiao finally addressed the media outside his home in General Santos City. Surrounded by flashing cameras, he kept his words short. "I am not angry for myself. But when you hurt my child even by mistake, you answer to me as a father first, not as a boxer." The crowd erupted in applause. One local station turned the footage into a full 10-minute breakdown, complete with dramatic music, slow zooms, and pop-up text reading the look that changed everything. Across Asia, millions watched and rewatched the clip, not for the coffee spill, but for the raw, human moment that followed. A father's instinct to protect by nightfall. The cafe had shut down temporarily. Online reviews tanked to 1 star. Memes flooded Facebook. One showed Pacquiao holding a coffee cup with the caption, "Careful now." This wasn't just a viral moment anymore. It had become a global story about respect, family, and the dangers of underestimating the quiet man in line behind you. And the world was still watching, waiting for what Pacquiao would do next. The next day dawned brighter than usual in General Santos City, but for Manny Pacquiao's family, the storm hadn't passed. Reporters were still camped outside their gate, microphones in hand, camera lights ready to pounce at the slightest movement. Inside, Pacquiao's daughter sat quietly at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of hot chocolate. She wasn't crying anymore. She had cried enough the night before. But her eyes carried a heaviness only a child who's been humiliated in public could understand. Pacquiao walked in, still in his morning jog gear, sweat glistening on his forehead. Placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay, Enoch?" he asked softly. She nodded, forcing a smile. But he could tell it wasn't real. By now, the incident had evolved beyond a simple coffee shop altercation. It had become a symbol, a global conversation about respect, humility, and how fame doesn't shield you from cruelty. On TV, debates raged. A panel on Head Start discussed whether Pacquiao had been too intimidating in confronting the manager. A radio caller in Cebu shouted live on air, "Too intimidating? That's his daughter. What would you do?" YouTube was flooded with reaction videos. Some recreated the scene with exaggerated comedy, others analyzed it frame by frame. The clip had over 85 million views in under 48 hours. Late that afternoon, the coffee shop chain announced an official press conference. The manager, wearing a wrinkled polo shirt, stepped up to the podium. His hands trembled as he adjusted the microphone. "I want to apologize not just to Miss Pacquiao, but to every customer I've disrespected in the past. That day, I was stressed, I was impatient, and I let my anger get the better of me. But it was wrong. All of it." His voice cracked. Cameras clicked furiously. Did not know she was Manny Pacquiao's daughter, but that doesn't matter. I should have treated her with respect as a person, not because of who her father is, but because she deserved it. It was an apology, but for some it came too late. That evening, in a move that shocked the nation, Pacquiao requested his own press conference. Wearing a simple white shirt and jeans, he stood at the podium. No entourage, no fancy backdrop. "I accept the apology," he began, his voice steady. "And I hope the people watching this will remember, forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness also does not erase consequences. My family will not pursue legal action, but I hope he learns from this." The room fell silent. Then he looked straight into the camera. "To all fathers, all mothers, stand up for your children. They look to you not just for love, but for protection." The clip went instantly viral the following morning. Hashtags like hashtag #PACQUIAO forgives and hashtag respect is free trended worldwide. Fans praised his dignity. He could have destroyed that man's career. Instead, he taught him a lesson. Others turned the moment into an inspirational quote post. "Forgiveness is the punch they never see coming." Celebrities chimed in. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson tweeted, "Mad respect for Manny. Father first, fighter second." 3 days later, Pacquiao's daughter posted a short message on Instagram, her first since the incident. "I'm okay now. Thank you for the kind messages. My dad is my hero. Not because he's a boxer, but because he's my dad." The post received over 1.2 million likes in just hours. The coffee shop chain closed the branch where it all happened, citing operational restructuring. The spot would later be turned into a small community cafe run by local staff, a place where, ironically, everyone knew your name. As for Pacquiao, life returned to its usual rhythm: training, charity work, family time. But those who were there that day would never forget the look on his face in that moment. It wasn't the look of a champion in the ring. It was the look of a father whose instincts had taken over, who would have faced an entire army if it meant protecting his child. Weeks later, Pacquiao and his daughter returned to the city mall for a quiet lunch. No cameras, no reporters, just family. Ows. They walked past a small cafe. The barista froze mid-pour. For a split second, everyone in the cafe seemed to hold their breath. Pacquiao smiled, raised his hand in greeting, and kept walking. His daughter looked up at him. "You're not mad anymore?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, Enoch. Life's too short to stay mad. But it's never too short to stand up for yourself." And with that, they stepped into the sunlight, leaving the echoes of that day behind, but not forgotten.